Hey everyone, welcome back to Talking Sense. Today I thought I'd do something a little bit different. It's a big change in seasons and weather, so I thought I'd kind of give in and do the list. So welcome back to Talking Sense. I'm Ben, nice to see you. It's been a little while. I've been really busy with work and stuff. I normally do these videos in like my downtime to kind of relax. But I haven't really had much of that the last couple of weeks. So yeah, but now hopefully I should have a bit more time, which is nice. So I thought I'd do my warm weather list, but I've given myself a couple of kind of caveats, and that's firstly, I wanted it to be for everyone. So I wanted there to be something in this list that I hope that everyone can find at least one thing here that will pique their interest, you know. So even if the 9 other fragrances that I talk about, you think, well, maybe at least you can find one thing. But the main thing that I wanted to do on this was, I'd say, try and make it something for everyone in terms of the price and availability and things like that. But at the same time, make it, unique, so that if you wear something on this, you're probably not going to smell like the person next to you at work or the person next to you on the bus, or, you're probably going to be smelling pretty unique. So yeah, hopefully everyone will be able to find something that is pretty different. So yeah, let's get going. There's 10 fragrances, so might as well crack on. Here we go. So the first fragrance on my list came out in 2008, and it's by Parfumeur Jean-Claude Eleanor. It's Un Jardin Apres le Mousson by Hermes. And the notes in this one are ginger, cardamom, coriander, pepper, vetiver. There's some citruses in here as well. Yeah, it's probably the most obvious one on this list if you've watched my channel. Un Jardin Apres le Mousson, I really like all of the Jardin line, but Un Jardin Apres le Mousson for me is a really unique one. It's got this like really tart ginger, like freshly cut, spicy tart ginger in the top. That's it's almost got like a sweet kind of sharpness to it, but it's really beautiful, and it mixes with the kind of pepper and the cardamom elements, the sort of spicier elements really well. And what I find really interesting about this is, although it's got like quite a few sort of denser notes in there, like the spices and the heavier spices and things like that, almost quite dry spices, it's not. It's quite aquatic. It's got definitely like this watery kind of aquatic green vibe to it. Obviously, it's in the same, like the Jardin line, so you've got the one that probably most people are familiar with is Jardin Solennel, which is really nice as well. But I feel like this one is slightly more unique. I think Jardin Solennel is also unique, but Jardin Apres le Mousson for me is the most unique of the Jardin line, and it's that interesting kind of clash of the ginger and the spices, but at the same time keeping it aquatic, green, light, airy. It's fresh. It's definitely one for the spring and summer months and the hot weather. It definitely has that kind of uplifting, almost like citric vibe, but it's not. It's this weird kind of ginger and aquatic thing. It's really nice in terms of like who can wear it, when they can wear it, things like that. For those warmer months, this is one of those great fragrances which is going to be super versatile. You can dress this up, wear it out. You can dress it up down, go cash. It's just great for the summer months. It's completely unisex, in my opinion. I think it leans sort of somewhat masculine with some of those spices, but it's really unisex. And it's just really great. I like ginger anyway, and this with that, it's very like a fresh cut ginger, like sort of root ginger, and it's really beautiful. So yeah, I thought it would probably be one of the more obvious ones. We'll try and get those out of the way first. Un Jardin Apres le Mousson by Hermes, really great warm weather fragrance. Sticking with the more obvious fragrances, we'll do my kind of next sort of more obvious fragrance on this list. L'Homme Idéal Cologne by Guerlain. And the notes in this one are orange, bergamot, lemon, pink pepper, almonds, neroli, vetiver, and musk. And it's really nice. Again, this is definitely like a invigorating kind of fresh, light fragrance for those, I would say, like when it gets quite warm. Interestingly, it's discontinued. but that doesn't really make it difficult to get. It's just made it cheap. I think I bought this for £15, which makes it like, you know, one of the cheaper on this list. Not the cheapest. I've got something even cheaper than this coming up, but it's definitely one of the cheapest on the list. Say it is discontinued, so you can't buy it direct from Guerlain anymore, but you can definitely find them online. And it's a really beautiful warm weather fragrance. And it's, again, slightly interesting because you've got the citruses on the top there, right? So it's got that citrus zip, right? So that's really great. But at the same time, it's got kind of a very spicy vetiver in here. And a sort of softly vanillic almond edge to it as well, which makes it a sort of creamy spiciness underneath those citruses. It's not altogether usual, but it totally works. It's very classy. I think this is a really great fragrance for if you want to dress up and go out, but you still want to smell like fresh and clean and like you're wearing a perfume, but without sort of killing people and wearing a perfume that's sort of going to be overly oppressive in those really warmer evenings and things like that. Yeah, muggy warm evenings. This is a really great one for that. It's got that kind of classy, definitely I'm wearing a perfume vibe, but it's really bright and light and airy and all the rest of it. And that's something that you don't always find, is that, or I feel like you don't always find that kind of citric brightness that maintains a very sort of classy elegance. This one does that for you because it maintains that with that kind of the creamy elements to it and the spicy vetiver underneath. You know, I think it's really nice. I don't know why they discontinued it, other than the fact that they sort of seem to be bent on creating as many flankers of L'Homme Ideal as they can. But like, you know, more for them. It's great for us because this, say, you can get it really cheap. So a nice cheap one, definitely great, lovely bottle, lovely scent. L'Homme Ideal cologne, nice and cheap, why not? So we'll try and start moving away from the more obvious fragrances now and try something, you know, a little bit kind of more interesting. This one is Mechant Loup by Parfumeur, and this came out in 1997, so it's quite an old fragrance, and it's by Bertrand Duchefort. The notes in it are hazelnut, honey, sandalwood, cedar, licorice, myrrh and pralines. So this one's definitely, you know, got a couple of like interesting, slightly weirder notes in there. You got the praline for a start, which is an interesting fantasy note. You got the hazelnuts, which are not always the most common of sort of nuts you find in a fragrance. And then you've got the licorice, which is really interesting. Again, that sounds like it could be very heavy with those kind of the praline, licorice, hazelnut, honey. You're starting to think like, whoa, okay, this is dense and thick, but it's not. It's got a very, I think, refined, gentlemanly, sort of almost kind of classically Cologne-y barbershop vibe to it. Definitely it's masculine and got a very sort of clean barbershop element to it, or I don't want to say barbershop really, but it's more of like a gentleman's aftershave kind of vibe to it. And I don't know where that's coming from, but it's really nice, but it's really unique in that it's got that kind of like dark licorice element. You know, like that's the thing that really sets it apart from others. So it's like, yeah, sure, it smells like a gentleman's classy, kind of almost old school aftershave. But then it just throws you for a loop with these sort of woods and dark licorice. And it's really nice, but it maintains a lightness the whole time. Like licorice is an interesting note, but it's not necessarily a dark, thick, heavy note, despite the fact that it, you know, you tend to associate it with darkness. For me, this is not a dark, scary fragrance, despite the name as well. It's quite a light fragrance, and I think it's great for warmer weather. I think it's got a freshness, it's got a coolness from that licorice that, you know, like quite a bright, cool, like cold vibe to it that's nice on those warmer days. Interestingly, if you think, you know, if you kind of balk at Jardin Parfumeur prices, an alternative to this one is Lolita Lempica Eau Masculin, which is another kind of interesting licorice fragrance. And there's they got crossovers. I think this one is a little bit more dark, but they've both got those kind of very like prominent black licorice sort of hearts. So I personally think that Mechant Loup is nicer. But like I said, I just thought I'd throw that in as a, if you can't get hold of the Mechant Loup, or you think it's a little bit too expensive to try like a licorice out, then perhaps Lolita Lempicka Eau Masculin, I think it's Eau Masculin Extreme, might help you out. Interestingly, you might actually have more trouble getting hold of this one because this one's discontinued now and a little bit of a cult classic. So they're not super easy to get, but they do come up from time to time. So, keep an eye out. But otherwise, say Mechant Loup by Parfumeur. It's got that lovely licorice, just keeps it bright, cool, and definitely interesting. So sticking on that kind of slightly unusual, off-the-wall licorice vibe from that one, this time we got Yesterday's Haze by Imaginary Authors. And the notes in this one are fig, iris, cream, tonka, tree bark, walnut bitters, and orchard dust. Really weird again, straight away. This is a beautiful fig perfume, but it's got this really like nice sort of citric, almost kind of top notes along with that, and then this sort of very dusty, sandy, sort of dry desert vibe to it. But for me, it's always kept light with that fig. The fig and the iris keep this cool and light. So again, you've got notes in here like cream, tonka, orchard dust, whatever that might be. So you wonder, is this not heavy? But it's not at all. The fig and the iris are keeping it cool, because iris, again, it's quite a cool note. So they're keeping it cool, and the fig is obviously keeping it quite bright. You've got that walnut bitters, which is kind of a sharp kind of, it's not citric, but it gives it almost a citric vibe. And then it's just kind of creamy with that fig, that milkiness from the fig and the cream and the tonka. So it's got this kind of like milky brightness to it. But at the same time, it's lovely and dry. It smells amazing. I think this is really great for summer evenings. Like definitely like high heat of summer in the evening. I don't like it so much in the day. For me, this is a little bit, not cloying, but it's a little bit much for the day for me. I like it in like high heat of summer in the evenings when things are like still very warm, but you haven't got that kind of burning sun on you, and it just gets that lovely dustiness. It has quite a kind of nice sort of romance to it then. And the creamy milky fig is really, really great. It definitely has a woodiness to it. So it has the milkiness of the fig, but it's also got the green and the bark and the tree of the fig as well. So it's definitely not too like overly like the fruit. It's definitely like the whole thing. And it's really great. I really like it for those kind of like warm summer evenings. I think it definitely 100% unisex. And say like this is for me a bit more of a casual scent. It's a very fun casual scent for summer evenings. I think really beautiful summer evening casual scent. Yesterday's Haze by Imaginary Authors. So keeping it casual, we're gonna go super cheap. This next one, I've had it on my channel before. It's Eau De Gaga by, I don't know, it's just a celebrity scent, isn't it? Eau De Gaga. And the notes in this are really simple. They're just lime, violet, leather, and cedar. That's the published notes, but there's a clear tea note in here as well. And the tea note in this is really nice. This fragrance cost me £7 delivered, and that's just a bargain. If you're in America, that's like $10 delivered. And it's a really nice tea fragrance. And I tell you what this really reminds me of, and it could be, this could be one of the Bulgari tea fragrances, like Eau De Vert, Eau De Rouge, Eau De Bleu, all those kind of Bulgari tea fragrances, even like Pour Soir, things like that. That kind of Bulgari tea note that's in there is really close to this one. This reminds me very much like that. It could easily slip into that. It could be like a Eau De Vert Extreme or something. But what it is really simple. It's got a kind of creamy violet that comes out later, but in the opening you're just going to get lime and tea. It's a really simple fragrance, but it's really fun, it's really casual, it's really cheap. It's just this great kind of like fresh, zippy tea with, like I said, the lime obviously gives it the freshness and the zip. The tea's just got that nice tannin quality, and then the violet just comes in to kind of creamy it all up and make it a little bit smooth in that middle. The leather and the woods, I don't think are massive in this. For me, it's got a little bit of woods. Leather, I would say, you might be dreaming there. It's, for me, all about tea and lime and, say, a little bit of woodiness underneath. But it's really nice. And it's so cheap. Like, for basically, if you like tea fragrances and you like, or you like lime fragrances, just buy it. Like, what else are you going to spend your, like, £7 on? That's ridiculous. And it's really good. It lasts really long. It's completely unisex. You can dress this up even. You can dress it down. I think it really works for everything. I think it's a nice casual throw on. But, you know, tea fragrances, they have a classiness to them. You know, like, you can definitely dress this up and you'll be okay. It's not like, you know, super kind of sexy or anything like that. But it's very fresh and invigorating, and it's great for, say, those warmer months. For me, this is something that I wear when it gets like really, really warm, and I just love that kind of tea and lime in it. The lime is very kind of like neon and zippy and bright, and for the price, I think it's an unbelievably like well blended quality scent. So next up is another fragrance that's been on my channel before. It was a couple of years ago now, but I still really enjoy it, and that's Comme des Garcons by Monocle, Scent 3 Sugi. This one actually came out in 2013. It's part of the line from Monocle, like a lifestyle magazine, and it was made by Antoine Mechant. And the notes for it are cypress, Madagascar pepper, iris, Virginian cedar, pine, and Haitian vetiver. So there's a lot of kind of greenery and woods in this. For me, this is a super coniferous woody fragrance, really cold and industrial, but it's got this lovely kind of like classical iris in there that sort of like helps to kind of soften things. For me, it's like this real juxtaposition of scents. You've got a lot of like sharp harshness and sort of cold sort of industrial elements, but at the same time you've got these like lovely kind of soft powdery iris that's very classical, and it kind of just works to soften those edges and sort of clash, like sort of interesting juxtapositions of scents. So it's definitely unique. Smells, I think, like a really expensive like sauna or something. Yeah, I think it is supposed to be like, and I get vibes of like Japanese onsen, like bathhouses, and it's really nice, but it's nice and unique. Say it's got that Comme des Garcons like industrial edge to it. You're definitely not going to smell like anyone else, but you are going to have those kind of like coniferous, woody kind of like vibes that are, you know, prevalent in a lot of fragrances these days. So, you know, it's like it's recognizable but interesting at the same time. It's got a very sharp sort of lemon cypress in the top. So although you haven't got any obvious citruses, you've got a very like very prominent sort of coniferously green woody citrus in that lemon cypress on the top, and that sort of permeates through everything. But like I say, it is very green and it is very woody, but it's beautiful. It's really, I feel like a very ethereal scent. It reminds me of something that sort of Jean-Claude Guerlain could make if or would have made if he'd have worked for Comme des Garcons, because it's got those kind of very like sharp industrial sort of robotic kind of vibes that Comme des Garcons are kind of known for, but it's very ethereal and light and floaty and romantic at the same time, full of sort of like weird juxtapositions and clashes. This scent, like all around, but really great, definitely unique, not too expensive, nice and easy to get hold of. I think it's great. You can wear it sort of dressed up. Again, very versatile. A lot of these scents are very versatile, being that they're quite lightweight and such. but I feel like this is quite classy as well, so you can definitely, nice and versatile, really interesting scent. For male, female, totally fine, definitely unisex. With all the woods in there, leans a bit masculine, but you know, I feel like it's pretty unisex. There's nothing, you know, there's a nice enough softness in there with that iris and such that brings it back to the middle, really. Totally unisex, really nice fragrance. Monocle Scent 3 Sugi by Comme des Garcons by Monocle, so it's like a kind of crossover scent. Really great. On the complete other end of the spectrum now, you know, it was obviously really industrial. Next up, we've got Maai by Bogue Parfumeur. And this is pretty much a legendary floral fragrance. Came out in 2014, and it's made by a small perfumer called Antonio Gardoni. The notes in it are aldehydes, tuberose, rose, jasmine, resins, musk, and civet. And this is a really beautiful fragrance. I wanted to get a kind of densely floral perfume into this list, and this is the most obvious one. I've been wearing it myself like recently. It's absolutely beautiful. In fact, I'm gonna spray it and I'm gonna wear it as my scent of the day because it's like magnificent. When you spray it, it is very much like a big sort of tuberose floral, but as it moves on, it's just classical, beautiful chypre vibe, and with like mosses, herbaceous greenery comes out. There's some beautiful vanilla. Is insanely good. When you first spray it, you're gonna feel like it's like a very vintage vibe. It is very like vintage chypre floral smell, and you are perhaps, you know, gonna be struck by that if it's not your thing. But it's a gorgeous, densely floral for this. I think any season, but in the summer and winter, summer and spring rather, where the florals get that warmth to kind of bloom and bring them out. Absolutely fantastic. As it goes on, it's not boring, it's not simple. It sort of progresses through these like sort of hoops and jumps of like moss and herbal, sort of herbaceous greenery. And then that vanilla comes out and it's just perfect. The vanilla in this is absolutely just measured to perfection. And this is, you know, I don't overhype fragrances too much, but this is incredible. A lot of people say it's very animalic and civety and pissy. It's, for me, a bit pissy, but it's not over the top at all. I think it's like, you know, totally fine. I don't think it's as like sort of strongly animalic as it gets. It's kind of said about. I think it's pretty minimal. But it's gorgeous. It has a very vintage aldehilic kind of floral vibe. Definitely the biggest floral on this list. But I say I really wanted to get a floral in there. So for me, this is the floral for those kind of summer months. If you're just looking for the one, this is incredible and it's really worth checking out. If you're looking for a floral but you think this might be a bit heavy, because it is a big, heavy, thick floral, another one that I quite like is Promenade in the Gardens by Maison Margiela. And this is another floral, and it's a clear floral fragrance, but it's very different take on floral than Maai, whereas this one is very like a prominent floral, but it's green, and it, to me, it smells like that scent that if you go to like a city park and you know, like later in the evening in the summer, like sort of 7, 8 in the evening, and they've just done watering the flowers, that's what this smells like. You've got that kind of green grass and sort of stemmy florals that have just been watered, and that's what this smells like. It's much lighter, it's much greener. So, you know, if you're looking for a floral, but maybe that Maai sounds a little bit too densely floral, check out Promenade in the Garden by Maison Margiela. It's not one of their better known ones, but it's really good, I think, as a kind of like light watery floral. But yeah, Bogue Maai for me is like the go-to floral for these summer months. It's absolutely gorgeous, absolutely spot on, perfection, like truly. Like, and I don't hype stuff too much, I don't think. This one is fantastic. Sticking with that herbaceous vibe of Maai there, because there is a very like herbaceous heart to Maai. Next up is Ascot Moon by Xerjoff. And the notes in this one are listed straight off Fragrantica because they're not given sort of officially. It came out in 2012 and it's grass, basil, green notes, sage, patchouli, spicy notes, moss and musk. And that for me is not even half the story. It is very green, so sort of, you know, we can judge by that list that it's a very green fragrance. It is very green, but for me it's like really dusty and very herbaceous, super herbal, you know, a lot of sage, very dry, and just really, really nice, soft, almost slightly smoky, incensey kind of vibe to it. Very introspective fragrance, quite quiet. In fact, I would say it's the only thing that lets this fragrance down is that it's a little bit too quiet, perhaps. Like it wears a little bit too close, a little bit too quickly, but really, really nice. What it reminds me of is like it's smelling like an old dusty book. Like you know, it's got like there's a very like herbal green elements to it, obviously, but it just feels like a dusty old book to me. It's really nice. That might not sound like super appealing to you, but it's better than that. You know, like, it's got this like gorgeous green sort of herbal. That's what it is basically, like green herbal kind of dry powderiness, along with a kind of very prominent sage and incense. Soft little tiny touch of smoke in there. Really good. Really well done, really beautiful, very like good for this. For me would be a very good going out, a sort of like classy affair, like dressed up. I totally wear this casually, but I think, you know, if you want to wear something very close wearing, definitely great for that. Sort of a close wearing when you need to be sort of like a little bit less audacious, perhaps. Really good scent for that, for these warmer months. This is a bit more leaning spring than summer, but definitely is for both of those months. And it's really excellent, but very unique. Again, like all of these, so I picked them all to try and be unique. This is another one that is very unique. It's got that just a crazy kind of like very interesting herbal saginess in that middle, and that's not something you smell often. So the sage in this is super strong. For me, it's the most prominent. And then you've got a nice kind of like herbal vetiver and incense. Really good. Very green, but not in a kind of usual thick, watery green way. It's dry, powdery, dusty green. Really, really good. Really, really interesting. So moving into the home stretch, after that one, I thought we'd go, because I feel like Ascot Moon is a little bit kind of like austere almost. Thought we'd move somewhere a little bit more fun now. So this next one is Lignum Vitae by Beaufort, London. And the notes in this one are black pepper, red fruits, biscuit, sea notes, mandarin, orange, citron, bergamot, juniper, ginger, lime, olibanum, and caramel. And you've got guaiac wood, vetiver, pepper, oud, sand, sea salt, amber, olibanum, musk, vanilla, and oak moss. So there's a lot going on there. For me, it's much more simple than that. It's just a really strong lemon drizzle cake. That's about it. Like there's well, that's not about it. So this is probably the most aquatic on this list. It's got like kind of sea notes, but quite clean sea-ish. But it's got those kind of green sea notes with a sort of salty vibe to it. At the same time, it's got like a touch of lime in there. And otherwise, it's got this big kind of lemon drizzle cake. And when I say lemon drizzle cake, I mean lemon drizzle cake. This is not like it's got the texture and everything. It's got the dry, crummy sort of cakey vibe to it, and it absolutely all the way through and through. And it's very strange. What the most unique fragrance on this list by quite some margin. One of the most unique fragrances I've ever smelled in terms of like just sort of the gymnastics it makes your head jump through, because you smell it and it just has that weird kind of dry, crummy, biscuity texture that you can smell. It's very strange, but but it's excellent. So all those other notes, God knows. For me, it's much more simple than that. It's a beautiful, aquatic gourmand, which is absolutely weird, but really great. They'd say the lemon and the citric vibes to it obviously keep it really bright, and sort of like great for the summer months, as always. But just absolutely unusual. The most unusual citric fragrance I've ever smelled. The most unusual gourmand fragrance I've ever smelled. The most unusual aquatic. It's, you know, basically anything you want to kind of tag this with is a unique version of that. It's bonkers, but really, really nice at the same time. Really beautiful. Definitely worth a sample. Really artistic. Really clever. I feel like it's quite casual. I'm not sure I'd dress it up too much, but I think you could. Definitely 100% unisex. Lignum Vitae by Beaufort. Absolutely one of the most unusual on this list, and one of the best. Okay, so last up on this list, it's perhaps a little bit more of an obvious one. It's one that is a bit of a cult classic, and it's Halfeti by Penhaligon. The notes in this one are bergamot, lemon, coriander, saffron, cypress, artemisia, jasmine, rose, nutmeg, cedar, leather, oud, sandalwood, amber, musk, tonka and vanilla. So when this one came out, Halfeti, it was such a like kind of cult banger straight away. It was like destined to get that kind of cult status. It's really well liked, really hyped, but quietly hyped. But at the same time, I feel like it's not, outside of like frag heads and stuff, I don't think it's like super well known. I've never really kind of smelt this out when I'm out and about. I don't often smell people wearing it. But for me, it's really beautiful and absolutely one of the best on this list. It's I feel like it's quite weird in that it brings images to me of Thai cooking, and I don't know what that is, but it's got this kind of like almost sort of coconut milk vibe to things like underneath, and sort of creamy coconut milk, Thai green curry, you know, but perhaps without the kind of spicy hot chilies, but definitely like a Thai green curry element to it. Really, really good, and that includes the kind of like steamed rice in there as well. You know, it's like that you've got that steamed rice, that the creaminess from the coconut milk and the spices from the I guess like the chilies and the lemongrass and the basil. You know, it's really really good, really, really good. But I feel like it's got those elements to it. It's never. I don't know if that's just me that makes those associations, because I've never really heard anyone else sort of mention that about it. That it's, you know, there's kind of Thai cooking vibe. But for me, it's really strong in this. A lot of those other notes I feel like I don't really smell. I just instantly think Thai cooking. But it's so good. It's absolute class. This is really one for, say it's for everyone. Super versatile in that sense. It's definitely bang unisex. But for me, this is really classy. And I think this is a really great one. Probably the best one on this list for dressing up. If you're going to go out on some kind of dressy black tie event on a hot summer, I feel like this is a really good choice. I had a decant of this, and I remember my friend was really worried about going to meet his new girlfriend's parents in the south of France, and he said to me, like, you know, he was sort of talking to me about it, and it was clear that he was a bit nervous and stuff, and I tried to lighten it up and say, like, you know, you're going to wear any perfume, and he's not a big perfume guy, and he sort of, then he was, you know, what do you think I should wear? So I gave him my decant of Halfeti. That's the sort of fragrance I think that this is. You know, if you're going to meet your brand new girlfriend's parents in a different country for the first time, Halfeti. It's absolutely bang on. It's really, really nice. It's playful, but chic and classy at the same time. It's not overly strict and rigid, but it's got a nice elegance to it. And it's interesting, it's complex, and it's definitely something that a fraghead can get into and really enjoy. But at the same time, if you're not, you know, if you're just a muggle, you'll really enjoy this as well. It's nothing like super challenging or anything like that. It's nice. It's got a nice bit like sort of simple elegance to it that makes it carryable. Totally fine in the warmer weather because it's got a nice bright lightness to everything, and it's very like aerial and airy. So you can totally get away with it in the spring and the summer. Just an excellent fragrance. I again, like one of the better on this list. So I like all of these are things that I have been wearing and will be wearing this summer. So I don't have a bad thing really to say about any of these. But for me, like Halfeti is up there as one of the best on this list. I think it's just beautiful. I was after it for a really long time. Took me ages to kind of get hold of it at a decent price because I'm a bit tight and shrewd with fragrances, but truly excellent. So yeah, that's Penhaligon's Halfeti. Smells like Thai cooking. So that's my warm weather list, I guess. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you found, say, something on there that piques your interest. So I tried to make it so that it was quite broad and eclectic, but at the same time very unique. So I think if you wear any one of these fragrances, you're not going to smell like the person next to you. And I tried to cover sort of every kind of taste, style, and price range as well, because say not everyone wants to drop like several £100 on a Xerjoff, but there's stuff in here that isn't that price. So yeah, I hope you can find something interesting. I hope you find at least one thing in here that might pique your interest. So thanks very much for watching. Let's all look forward to some beautiful weather and hopefully the ability to go out in that weather. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. Cheers, take care, stay healthy, see you all really soon.